One of the expressions that's often heard from Advaita non-dual teachers is the expression that the world is an illusion. This can seem very strange to a lot of people, especially if they've been studying for a few years, where still maybe the phrase that the world is not real. And clearly it is. I can see it. I can touch it. I can interact with it. It can affect me. And therefore this term really needs an explanation. So there's two aspects, illusion and reality. Let's choose reality, it's easier. The definition of reality in non-dual teaching is that which exists in all the periods of time. What does that mean? That means something that existed in the past, exists now, will exist in the future. It has no transient existence. It doesn't come into being and then disappear again like a butterfly. Right? It's always been so and always will be so. So, for instance, a wooden chair would not count as real because the wood in the chair is what at one time was the branches of a tree. And at a future time, although the chair may be okay now, in the future it may be degraded, rotted back to the ground. It may be burnt into ashes. So the chair was not in the past, is now, will not be in the future, and therefore is not considered to be real in the definition of reality. So, using this definition, one can look at the world and say that the world comes into being, it is here now, and there'll be a world in the future. It changes the whole time. It is not a constant. And in that way, it can be considered, defined to be, not real. In terms of illusion, everything's an illusion. Because what we observe and smell and touch and everything that comes in through our five senses is a representation of the world that is presented to our mind. It's as if it's on some giant screen in our mind. We look at this screen and whatever we observe on this screen, we say, that's reality. That's what the outside world is like. We have no idea. The only time we can see the outside world is in our mind. We can't actually see the outside. We only see the representation of it that our senses present to us inside our mind. In much the same way, when we see a TV screen, we see the outside world, but on a TV screen. Clearly, that's not the outside. It's an illustration or an illusion of the outside world. Now, is the outside world exactly the way we see it? We don't know. We can't tell. Certainly for some animals, like for a bat, the outside world looks very different to the way it looks to us, because they use sound. For colorblind animals, the outside world looks very different. For animals who can see in infrared or ultraviolet, the world looks different. So all we have, the representation of the outside world, is what we see inside our mind. And it's illustrative of the outside world. There is an outside world, clearly, because if I carry on from this room and walk at some number of paces, I will hit a wall. And I'll be able to see that wall, touch that wall, even smell that wall, and taste it if I want to, but all those senses will be playing back in my mind. So in that sense, the world is an illusion. In terms of reality, if it's not constant, then the world comes into being and then goes. So it's an apparent reality. It's a reality for a certain period of time, which under the definition is not real at all. So, when people tell you that the world is an illusion, you can say, yes, it might well be an illusion. but I interact with it. It exists. It's just that it's not real.